Hey y'all, what's up? It's been a minute. Have you ever seen that movie, The Lovebirds? It's absolutely freaking hilarious. It's Issa Rae and Kumail Nanjiani, and it's like it's like a caper movie. It's absolutely so good. It's like romantic comedy. It's heavy on the comedy. That movie is so funny. But yeah, I can go off on a ramble here. So last night I was supposed to go live and start Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind by Shunryū Suzuki. But the weirdest thing happened. Normally, like before like I put my kids to bed, and before I put them to bed, like I'll, go in their room and we'll all kind of say our prayers, and like I'll lay down and give hugs and kisses and things like that. And I say my prayers out loud so they get used to hearing like mommy praying, so they know it's like a normal thing, and they do it too, because we don't go to like church or anything. They have a lot of like religious friends and whatnot. They're sitters and all of that. They get to see them praying all the time, but I feel like it's good to see them witnessing faith so that they can make it a normal part of their lives. And as I'm getting, here, I'll hold this here so we know what time it is. So I'm getting to the end of the prayer, and I don't even remember closing the prayer. It was like my brain just light switched off, and instantly I was in a dream, which was so weird. And the start of my dream, like the intro to my dream, was, "It's okay, you'll go on at 10. I was like, what the hell? And it just got absolutely wilder from there. It's throughout the dream, there were 2 times that I realized, like, oh, this is a dream. And I was able to start navigating the dream with my regular brain, but then I would kind of slip back and forget that I was dreaming again. And like Tom Segura was there, which is weird. I feel like I brought up Tom Segura like twice, at least twice in these little episodes, which is so strange. But we were shooting a sitcom together, and this girl that I went to high school with that I literally have not thought about in 20 years was there. And it was a sitcom with like a laugh track and everything in the background, and it was set in it was a post office / restaurant, which was so strange. And I was at one point in the dream Lady Gaga's personal driver, but we were like friends. It was weird. And we were going on a trip together to Virginia, but in my brain I knew it was Virginia, but it kept getting pronounced all crazy, like absolutely insane. It's like it was getting pronounced wrong, but I was like, oh, we're going to Virginia. And then I went back to the 1920s, and like I had Betty Page's roller skates with her name, like wild. So then I wake up at like 11 and I'm like, what the hell? And I start writing down everything I can remember from the dream, because I like writing that type of stuff down. And as I went through everything and all of the different pieces, I realized how that was my subconscious, like working through a lot of different things that I was thinking. But man, it was wild. And then I woke up at like 11 and was like, this is when I was like writing everything down. I was like, what the hell? Like, this is the craziest dream I've experienced in a long time, but like so relevant to what I was thinking about throughout the day. So crazy. But in any case, today's been kind of a wild day too. I have the itch to like go do karaoke, and I have not gone to do karaoke. I don't think I've done karaoke sober ever. And this will be my first time going sober, so I think I'm gonna make time for that this week. It's so weird, like synchronicities. People always talk about synchronicities, but like I was on the way to the grocery store today and I'm like, man, I really, really want to go sing. Like I really need to go fucking sing this out because I got a lot of feelings. And then I turned around randomly, and on the dashboard of this car, what is it? Agretsuko? She's like the girl that like goes and sings metal at karaoke. It was an Agretsuko, like, I think that's her name. Stuffy. That was like right on the top of the car. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I mean, coincidence? Maybe. I don't really believe in coincidences. So, I don't know. I gotta go and sing a little this week to like get all my feelings out. I've been like listening to like, I guess you could call them like Alanis Morissette, like deep cuts, like not the angry stuff, but like, well, kind of, I guess. What's that? Wait a minute, sir. You mispronounced my name. You didn't wait for all the information before you turned me away. See right through you. See right through you. And then that other one, the love song. Oh, Head Over Feet. That's been like popping up on my Spotify like crazy. DMB, Crash, and then like those goofy like Blink-182 like breakup songs, Always, and I Miss You by Blink. Like it's one of the most like silliest breakup songs ever, but I love it. I miss you. I could ramble forever on that, but anyways, we're gonna go ahead and dig into Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. I'm sorry, thinking about all of these random songs that have just been popping up everywhere. Like, even when I like go to the gym, like random love songs that I haven't heard in forever, and like weird ones, not like the Flamingos, Only Have Eyes for You, Shabab Shabab, like that one's been coming up like in public. Like who hears that in public? Or Rihanna, We Found Love last week. I feel like I heard that song at least 20 times. The gym where I work, the gym where I work out, on my Spotify, playing from people's cars down the street. I don't know. Something's manifesting. Something's crazy. But anyways, so this book is super close to my heart. This is the first book that I ever read about Buddhism, Zen practices, mindfulness. It was back in 2011. It was summer of 2011. And I moved back in with my parents because I got out of a really, story time, I got out of a really fucked up relationship. I was living in Napa, and this relationship ended very violently. And I, had a bone broken in my shoulder and nice little tendons displaced that I had to push back into place with the help of a bottle of tequila. It was a really crazy situation. I eventually left and didn't have anywhere to go, so I ended up back at my parents' house, also in Northern California. And I was like, well, obviously this means something. What the fuck do I do now? So I started meditating. And every day I would wake up and hobble myself down to, there was a park that was like, because their house was pretty chaotic. Not a great situation from lesser of two evils. But I would go down to the park and sit in the park and meditate every single day for 30 minutes, sometimes an hour, and just like feel the sun on my face and feel the grass. And then I was like, man, I've been meditating a lot. I wonder if I'm getting out of this what I should be getting out of this. So I was at the Goodwill one day, and I love Goodwill for books. Like, you find the most random stuff and just kind of read the back cover and grab something. So I ended up at Goodwill, and I bought my first copy of this book. I've since purchased it 2 other times, given away copies to like friends and other people who are on their meditation or like spirituality journey. My son's talking in his sleep. He's been talking in his sleep a lot lately. But I started reading it, and it was like kind of the jump off for me, trying to connect with myself, with the earth, with God. There were a lot of different derailments since then, but if you are a person who is into spirituality, then this will make a lot of sense to you. It will be absolutely beautiful. It's written in a super flowery language. Like it's really great. But if you're not, then it will just sound like babble and talking in circles, which doesn't make sense. Like it's kind of one of those things, like one of those if you know, you know type of things. Oh my gosh. That time period was so wild. I really loved it. It was great. Great, not so great, but it all worked out, and life is just wild. In any case, I've been, rambling for almost 15 minutes here, and that's less than I actually thought. So let's go ahead and get going. Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, Shunryū Suzuki. I love this. So beautiful. So I'm going to skip the preface here. My Japanese pronunciation is not fantastic, so bear with me. And I'll go ahead and start with the prologue here. Beginner's mind. In the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities, but in the experts, there are few. People say that practicing Zen is difficult, but there is a misunderstanding as to why. It is not difficult because it is hard to sit in the cross-legged position or to attain enlightenment. It's difficult because it is hard to keep our mind pure and our practice pure in its fundamental sense. The Zen school developed in many ways after it was established in China, but at the same time, it became more and more impure. But I do not want to talk about Chinese Zen or the history of Zen. I am interested in helping you keep your practice from becoming impure. I haven't read this in so long. The first thing this makes me think of is the Yoga Sutra. It was one of my favorite ones when I was going through yoga teacher training. And it was, what is it? Yogas Chitta Vritti Nirodha. I know I'm messing up that last. I'm putting too much emphasis on the H. Yogas Chitta Vritti Nirodha. And it's the mind chatter, like about yoga being able to kind of silence the mind chatter, and that's the goal of yoga, to be able to create a clear mind, because the mind essentially is like your bathroom mirror, right? If you're looking into it and you have all of this static, your mind is all cluttered, you will not be able to see yourself clearly. So being able to smooth the mind, smooth the monkey mind, the chatter, is kind of what is one of the primary goals of yoga. And that just, in my mind, relates to the practice becoming impure, too many other people's inputs, not being able to see yourself clearly in that mirror. We are all connected and it's all the same message, right? In Japan, we have the phrase shoshin, which means beginner's mind. The goal of practice is always to keep our beginner's mind. Suppose you recite the Prajnaparamita Sutra only once. It might be a very good recitation, but what would happen if you recited it twice, 3 times, 4 times, or more? You might easily lose your original attitude towards it. The same thing will happen in your other Zen practices. For a while, you will keep your beginner's mind, but if you continue to practice 1, 2, 3 years or more, although you may improve some, you are liable to lose the limitless meaning of original mind. For Zen students, the most important thing is not to be dualistic. Our original mind includes everything within itself. It is always rich and sufficient within itself. You should not lose your self-sufficient state of mind. This does not mean a closed mind, but actually an empty mind and a ready mind. If your mind is empty, it is always ready for anything. It is open to everything. In the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities. In the expert's mind, there are few. If you discriminate too much, you limit yourself. If you are too demanding or too greedy, your mind is not rich and self-sufficient. If we lose our original self-sufficient mind, we will lose all precepts. When your mind becomes demanding, when you long for something, you will end up violating your own precepts. Not to tell lies, not to steal, not to kill, not to be immoral, and so forth. If you keep your original mind, the precepts will keep themselves. Oh, I like that. Longing. It's like that longing is the root of suffering, right? By keeping that original mind and not striving for anything, you don't open yourself up to immoral activity. In the beginner's mind, there is no thought. I have attained something. All self-centered thoughts limit our vast mind. When we have no thought of achievement, no thought of self, we are true beginners. Then we can really learn something. The beginner's mind is the mind of compassion. When our mind is compassionate, it is boundless. Dogen Zenji, the founder of our school, always emphasized how important it is to resume our boundless original mind. Then we were always true to ourselves, in sympathy with all beings, and can actually practice. So the most difficult thing is always to keep your beginner's mind. There is no need to have a deep understanding of Zen. Even though you read much Zen literature, you must read each sentence with a fresh mind. You should not say, I know what Zen is, or I have attained enlightenment. This is also the real secret of the arts. Always be a beginner. Be very, very careful about this point. If you start to practice zazen, you will begin to appreciate your beginner's mind. It is the secret of Zen practice. I love this note. It's so fantastic. This is how I've been trying to live my life, is looking at everything as freshly as possible, being open to all possibilities, or the law of pure potentiality, as I can hear his voice. Deepak Chopra says in a lot of his meditations, anything is possible, and go in with that presence and an open mind, and it really allows you to not only live your life to the fullest, but in the most purest sense possible. So here we're going into part 1, right practice. Zazen practice is the direct expression of our true nature. Strictly speaking, for a human being, there is no other practice than this practice. There is no other way of life than this way of life. Excuse my fridge. It sounds like my fridge is getting ready to go out. Posture. These forms are not the means of obtaining the right state of mind. To take this posture itself, to take this posture is itself to have the right state of mind. There is no need to obtain some special state of mind. Now I would like to talk about our zazen posture. When you sit in the full lotus position, your left foot is on your right thigh. Your right foot is on your left thigh. When we cross our legs like this, even though we have a right leg and a left leg, they have become one. The position expresses the oneness of duality, not two and not one. This is the most important teaching, not two and not one. Our body and mind are not two and not one. If you think that your body and mind are two, that is wrong. If you think that they are one, that is also wrong. Our body and mind are both two and one. We usually think that if something is not one, it is more than one. If it is not singular, it is plural. But in actual experience, our life is not only plural, but also singular. Each one of us is both dependent and independent. After some years, we will die. If we just think that it is the end of our life, this will be the wrong understanding. But on the other hand, if we think that we do not die, this is also wrong. We die and we do not die. This is the right understanding. Some people may say that our mind or soul exists forever, and it is only our physical body which dies. But this is not exactly right, because both mind and body have their end. But at the same time, it is also true that they exist eternally. And even though we say mind and body, they are actually two sides of one coin. This is the right understanding. So when we take this posture, it symbolizes this truth. When I have the left foot on the right side of my body and the right foot on the left side of my body, I do not know which is which, so either may be the left or the right side. The most important thing in taking the zazen posture is to keep your spine straight. Your ears and your shoulders should be on one line. Relax your shoulders and push up toward the ceiling with the back of your head, and you should pull your chin in. When your chin is tilted up, you have no strength in your posture. You are probably dreaming. Also, to gain strength in your posture, press your diaphragm down towards your hara, or lower abdomen. This will help you maintain your physical and mental balance. When you try to keep this posture, at first you may find some difficulty breathing naturally, but when you get accustomed to it, you will be able to breathe naturally and deeply. Your hands should form the cosmic mudra. If you put your left hand on top of your right, middle joints of your middle fingers together, and touch your thumbs lightly together as if you held a piece of paper between them, your hands will make a beautiful oval. You should keep this universal mudra with great care, as if you were holding something very precious in your hand. Your hands should be held against your body with your thumbs at about the height of your navel. Hold your arms freely and easily and slightly away from your body, as if you held an egg under each arm without breaking it. You should not be tilted sideways, backwards, or forwards. You should be sitting straight up, as if you were supporting the sky with your head. This is not just form or breathing. It expresses the key point of Buddhism. It is a perfect expression of your Buddha nature. If you want true understanding of Buddhism, you should practice this way. These forms are not a means of obtaining the right state of mind. To take this posture itself is the purpose of our practice. When you have this posture, you have the right state of mind, so there is no need to try and attain some special state. When you try to attain something, your mind starts to wander about something else. When you do not try to attain something, you have your own body and mind right here. A Zen master would say, "Kill the Buddha. Kill the Buddha if the Buddha exists somewhere else. Kill the Buddha because you should resume your own Buddha nature." Doing something is expressing our own nature. We do not exist for the sake of something else. We exist for the sake of ourselves. This is the fundamental teaching expressed in the forms we observe. Just as for sitting, when we stand in the Zendo, we have some rules. But the purpose of these rules is not to make everyone the same, but to allow each to express his own self most freely. For instance, each one of us has his own way of standing. So our standing posture is based on the proportions of our own bodies. When you stand, your heels should be as far apart as the width of your own fist. Your big toes in line with the center of your breasts. As in zazen, put some strength in your abdomen. Here also your hands should express yourself. Hold your left hand against your chest with fingers encircling your thumb. And put your right hand over it, holding your thumb pointing downward. And your forearms parallel to the floor. You feel as if you have some round pillar in your grasp, a big round temple pillar, so you cannot be slumped or tilted to the side. The most important part is to own your own physical body. If you slump, you will lose yourself. Your mind will be wandering about somewhere else. You will not be in your body. This is not the way. We must exist right here, right now. This is the key point. You must have your own body and mind. Everything should exist in the right place, in the right way. Then there is no problem. If the microphone I use when I speak exists somewhere else, it will not serve its purpose. When we have our body and mind in order, everything will exist in the right place, in the right way. So this is what I was speaking of as I was going into the beginning of the book. About how if you are in a place where you're open to spirituality and really looking at the fact that we are all individuals, but we are all one, like the water drops, like every droplet is individual, right? When it rains down from the sky, but that becomes a larger whole when it, hits the other water and turns into a puddle. It becomes an even larger whole when it eventually flows to the river, lake, or ocean. And when it gets hot and that evaporates, it becomes even a smaller piece, a tiny little microscopic version of our energy. And I feel like that's who we are as people. We all are here to exist not only for the good of ourselves, but if we are living our best self, we can also live for the betterment of our community and ourselves as a human race, which essentially is better for the earth, if that kind of makes sense. By being exactly where we are, living our best life, working toward our purpose, whatever that may be, given to us from spirit, everything fits together like a puzzle. And it makes the beautiful tapestry or the picture that is this life. Get some water here, continuing on. But usually, without being aware of it, we try to change something other than ourselves. We try to order things outside us, but it is impossible to organize things if you and yourself are not in order. When you do things in the right way, at the right time, everything will be organized. You are the boss. When the boss is sleeping, everyone is sleeping. When the boss does something right, everyone will do everything right and at the right time. That is the secret of Buddhism. So try always to keep the right posture, not only when you practice zazen, but in all your activities. Take the right posture when you are driving your car and when you are reading, as I'm slumped over on my meditation cushions. If you read in a slumped position, you cannot stay awake long. Try. You will discover how important it is to keep the right posture. This is the true teaching. The teaching which is written on paper is not the true teaching. Writing a teaching is a kind of food for your brain. Of course, it is necessary to take some food for your brain, but it is more important to be yourself by practicing the right way of life. That is why Buddha could not accept the religions existing at his time. He studied many religions, but he was not satisfied with their practices. He could not find the answer in this word always gets me, asceticism or in philosophies. He was not interested in some metaphysical existence, but in his own body and mind, here and now. And when he found himself, he found that everything that exists has Buddha nature. That was his enlightenment. Enlightenment is not some good feeling or some particular state of mind. The state of mind that exists when you sit in the right posture is itself enlightenment. If you cannot be satisfied with the state of mind you have in zazen, it means your mind is still wandering about. Our body and mind should not be wobbling or wandering about. In this posture, there is no need to talk about the right state of mind. You already have it. This is the conclusion of Buddhism. So I love this. It's a beautiful way of putting it. Presence is the ultimate key to enlightenment. And even when you are present, you don't have to think about striving for enlightenment because you're already there experiencing. Breathing. What we call I is just a swinging door, which moves when we inhale and when we exhale. When we practice zazen, our mind always follows our breathing. When we inhale, the air comes into the inner world. When we exhale, the air goes out to the outer world. The inner world is limitless, and the outer world is also limitless. We say inner world or outer world, but actually there is just one whole world. In this limitless world, our throat is like a swinging door. The air comes in and goes out like someone passing through a swinging door. If you think, I breathe, the I is extra. There is no you to say I. What we call I is just a swinging door which moves when we inhale and when we exhale. It just moves. That is all. When your mind is pure and calm enough to follow this movement, there is nothing. No I, no world, no mind nor body, just a swinging door. So when we practice zazen, all that exists is the movement of the breathing. But we are aware of this movement. You should not be absent-minded, but to be aware of the movement does not mean to be aware of your small self, but rather of your universal nature or Buddha nature. This kind of awareness is very important because we are usually so one-sided. Our usual understanding of life is dualistic. You and I, this and that, good and bad. But actually, these discriminations are themselves the awareness of the universal existence. You means to be aware of the universe in the form of you. And I means to be aware of it in the form of I. You and I are just swinging doors. This kind of understanding is necessary. This should not even be called understanding. It is actually the true experience of life through Zen practice. I know I always bring this up in with every book, anytime, I'm talking about spirituality or on live here. But, the idea of we are the universe experiencing itself is such a huge and also very simplistic idea. The water droplets analogy and the idea that we are all just little pieces of spirit, tiny pieces of God that are in these avatars interacting with each other. In essence, for the plot, right? The universe wants to know what it's like to interact with itself, to experience love, growth, pain, heartache, redemption. And with all of those things, you and I are inherently the same, but also different pieces of the same cloth. So when you practice zazen, there is no idea of time or space. You may say, we started sitting at 5:45 in this room. Thus you have some idea of time, 5:45, and some idea of space in this room. Actually, what you are doing, however, is just sitting and being aware of the universal activity. That is all. This moment, the swinging door is opening in one direction, and the next moment, the swinging door will be opening in the opposite direction. Moment after moment, each one of us repeats this activity. Here, there is no idea of time or space. Time and space are one. You may say, I must do something this afternoon, but actually, there is no this afternoon. We do things, one thing after the other. That is all. There is no such time as this afternoon or 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock. At 1 o'clock, you will eat your lunch. To eat lunch itself is 1 o'clock. You will be somewhere, but that place cannot be separated from 1 o'clock. For someone who actually appreciates our life, they are the same. But when we become tired of our life, we may say, I shouldn't have come to this place. It may have been much better to have gone to some other place for lunch. This place is no good. In your mind, you create an idea of place separate from actual time. Or you may say, this is bad, so I should not do this. Actually, when you say, I should not do this, you are doing, not doing in that moment. So there is no choice for you. When you separate the idea of time and space, you feel as if you have some choice. But actually, you have to do something, or you have to do not doing. Not to do something is doing something. Good and bad are only in your mind. So we should not say, this is good or this is bad. Instead of saying bad, you should say not to do. If you think this is bad, it will create some confusion for you. So in the realm of pure religion, there is no confusion of time and space, or good or bad. All that we should do is just do something as it comes. Do something, whatever it is, we should do it, even if it is not doing something. We should live in this moment. So when we sit, we concentrate on our breathing, and we become a swinging door, and we do something we should do, something we must do. This is Zen practice. In this practice, there is no confusion. If you establish this kind of life, you have no confusion whatsoever. Tozan, a famous Zen master, said, "The blue mountain is the father of the white cloud. The white cloud is the son of the blue mountain. All day long, they depend on each other without being dependent on each other. The white cloud is always the white cloud. The blue mountain is always the blue mountain. This is a pure, clear interpretation of life. There may be things like the white cloud and blue mountain, man and woman, teacher and disciple. They depend on each other, but the white cloud should not be bothered by the blue mountain. The blue mountain should not be bothered by the white cloud. They are quite independent, but yet dependent. This is how we live and how we practice zazen. This is probably one of my favorite pieces in this book, because it makes you think about how interdependent everything is, how we like to make comparisons to things a lot, and it's almost impossible to separate things, but they still are separate if we want to put them in different boxes. If there were no concept of right or wrong, how would we be able to kind of work that out? I'm going to make a note for myself here, because this is something that I want to think about a lot more later. And, you know, I've got that feeling where the wheels are turning, but they haven't really come up with a decisive decision, I guess, a decision on how I feel about this particular statement. It's like I get it, but I don't. It feels foggy at the same time. When we become truly ourselves, we just become a swinging door, and we are purely independent of, and at the same time dependent upon everything. Without air, we cannot breathe. Each one of us is in the midst of myriads of worlds. We are the center of the world always, moment after moment. So we are completely dependent and independent. If you have this kind of experience, this kind of existence, you have absolute independence. You will not be bothered by anything. So when you practice zazen, your mind should be concentrated on your breathing. This kind of activity is the fundamental activity of the universal being. Without this experience, this practice, it is impossible to obtain absolute freedom. Let me see how long this next segment is. Oh, very short. Control. To give your sheep or cow a large, spacious meadow is the way to control him. To live in the realm of Buddha nature means to die as a small being, moment after moment. When we lose our balance, we die. But at the same time, we also develop ourselves. We grow. Whatever we see is changing, losing its balance. The reason everything looks beautiful is because it is out of balance, but its background is always in perfect harmony. I'm going to reread that here for a little more of my own understanding. When we lose our balance, we die. But at the same time, we also develop ourselves. We grow. Oh, whatever we see is changing, losing its balance. The reason everything looks beautiful is because it is out of balance, but its background is always in perfect harmony. This is how everything exists in the realm of Buddha nature, losing its balance against a background of perfect balance. So if you see things without realizing the background of Buddha nature, everything appears to be in the form of suffering. But if you understand the background of existence, you realize that suffering itself is how we live and how we extend our life. So in Zen, sometimes we emphasize the imbalance or disorder of life. Nowadays, traditional Japanese painting has become pretty formal and lifeless. That is why modern art has developed. Ancient painters used to practice putting dots on paper in artistic disorder. This is rather difficult. Even though you try to do it, usually what you do is arranged in some order. You think you can control it, but you cannot. It is almost impossible to arrange your dots out of order. It is the same with taking care of your everyday life. Even though you try to put people under some control, it is impossible. You cannot do it. The best way to control people is to encourage them to be mischievous. Then they will be in control in its wider sense. To give your sheep or cow a large, spacious meadow is the way to control him. So it is with people. First, let them do what they want and watch them. This is the best policy. To ignore them is not good. That is the worst policy. The second worst is trying to control them. The best one is to watch them, to just Watch them without trying to control them. The same way works for yourself as well. If you want to obtain perfect calmness in your zazen, you should not be bothered by the various images you find in your mind. Let them come and let them go. Then they will be under control. But this policy is not so easy. It sounds easy, but it requires some special effort. How to make this kind of effort is the secret of practice. Suppose you are sitting under some extraordinary circumstances. If you try to calm your mind, you will be unable to sit. And if you try to not be disturbed, your effort will not be the right effort. The only effort that will help you is to count your breathing or concentrate on your inhaling and exhaling. We say concentration, but to concentrate your mind on something is not the true purpose of zazen or the purpose of Zen. The true purpose is to see things as they are, to observe things as they are, and to let everything go as it goes. This is to put everything under control in its widest sense. Zen practice is to open up our small mind. So concentrating is just an aid to help you realize big mind, or the mind that is everything. If you want to discover the true meaning of Zen in your everyday life, you have to understand the meaning of keeping your mind on your breathing and your body in the right posture in zazen. You should follow the rules of practice, and your study should become more subtle and careful. Only in this way can you experience the vital freedom of Zen. I love this sentiment. Again, this is something that I'm going to really contemplate tonight. I'm being called quite a bit with my intuition to really learn how to surrender. I have a tendency to try and control the outcome of different things, my life, whatever is going on, and surrender is something that comes up constantly for me in prayer and in meditation, learning to just say, Jesus, take the wheel, or whatever, and be inside of my body and move through the day as things come to me. And honestly, it's maddening. I can't stand it. I learned from a very early age that control was the only way that I could keep myself safe. That I had to analyze people when I met them so that I could see what is safe and what's not. And while that intuition, still comes when I'm actively trying not to analyze what they were saying about watching people and just allowing them to do what they do, you learn a lot more. And I just feel like it is freeing, but it's very hard as from someone who really tries to control everything. Just staying with your breath is uncomfortable. Allowing people to make their own mistakes is uncomfortable. And this is something that I really need to look into a lot tonight and meditate a little more on. Dogen Zenji said, time goes from present to past. This is absurd. but in our practice, sometimes it is true. Instead of time progressing from past to present, it goes backwards from present to past. Yoshitsune was a famous warrior who lived in medieval Japan. Because of the situation of the country at that time, he was sent to the northern provinces, where he was killed. Before he left, he bade farewell to his wife, and soon after, she wrote in a poem, "Just as you unreel the thread from a spool, I want the past to become present." When she said this, actually she made past time present. In her mind, the past became alive and was the present. So as Dogen said, time goes from present to past. This is not true in our logical mind, but it is in the actual experience of making past time present. There we have poetry, and there we have human life. When we experience this kind of truth, it means that we have found the true meaning of time. Time constantly goes from past to present and from present to future. This is true, but it is also true that time goes from future to present and from present to past. A Zen master once said, "To go eastward 1 mile is to go westward 1 mile." This is vital freedom. We should acquire this kind of perfect freedom. But perfect freedom is not found without some rules. People, especially young people, think that freedom is to do just what they want. That in Zen there is no need for rules, but it is absolutely necessary for us to have some rules. But this does not mean always to be under control. As long as you have rules, you have a chance for freedom. To try to obtain freedom without being aware of the rules means nothing. It is to acquire this perfect freedom that we practice zazen. Right, this next segment is a little short. Let me see, I'm at about an hour here, so I'm gonna finish up this last segment and then call it a night so I can think about this a little more. I love getting to read this book again. It's so amazing coming from a different perspective later on in life. Mind waves. Because we enjoy all aspects of life as an unfolding of big mind, we do not care for any excessive joy, so we have imperturbable composure. When you are practicing zazen, do not try to stop your thinking. Let it stop by itself. If something comes into your mind, let it come in and let it go out. It will not stay long. When you try to stop your thinking, it means you are bothered by it. Do not be bothered by anything. It appears as if something comes from outside your mind, but actually, it is only the waves of your mind. And if you are not bothered by the waves, gradually they will become calmer and calmer. In 5 or at most 10 minutes, your mind will be completely serene and calm. At that time, your breathing will become quite slow, while your pulse will become a little faster. It will take quite a long time before you find your calm, serene mind in your practice. Many sensations come, many thoughts or images arrive, but they are just waves of your own mind. Nothing comes from outside your mind. Usually we think of our mind as receiving impressions and experiences from outside, but that is not a true understanding of our mind. The true understanding is that our mind includes everything. When you think something comes from outside, it means only that something appears in your mind. Nothing outside yourself can cause any trouble. You yourself make the waves in your mind. If you leave your mind as it is, it will become calm. This mind is called big mind. If your mind is related to something outside itself, that mind is a small mind, a limited mind. If your mind is not related to anything else, then there is no dualistic understanding in the activity of your mind. You understand activity as just waves of your mind. Big mind experiences everything within itself. Do you understand the difference between the two minds? The mind which includes everything and the mind which is related to something. Actually, they are the same thing, but the understanding is different, and your attitude toward your life will be different according to which understanding you have. That everything is included within your mind is the essence of mind. To experience this is to have religious feeling. Even though waves arrive, the essence of your mind is pure. It is just like clear water with a few waves. Actually, water always has waves. Waves are the practice of the water. To speak the waves apart from the water, or water apart from waves, is a delusion. Water and waves are one. Big mind and small mind are one. When you understand your mind in this way, you have some security in your feeling, as your mind does not expect anything from outside. It is always filled. A mind with waves in it is not a disturbed mind, but actually an amplified one. Whatever you experience is the expression of big mind. The activity of big mind is to amplify itself through various experiences. In one sense, our experiences are coming one by one, are always fresh and new. But in another sense, they are nothing but a continuous or repeated unfolding of the one big mind. For instance, if you have something good for breakfast, you will say, "This is good." Good is supplied as something experienced some long time ago, even though you may not remember when. With big mind, we accept each of our experiences as if recognizing the face we see in the mirror as our own. For us, there is no fear of losing this mind. There is nowhere to come or go. There is no fear of death, no suffering from old age or sickness, because we enjoy all aspects of life as an unfolding of big mind. We do not care for any excessive joy, so we have imperturbable composure. And it is with this imperturbable composure of big mind that we practice zazen. That is so interesting. This was such an interesting reading for me today, touching on the control, but this last part, there is no good or bad, there is no sickness, that reminded me a lot of the past, the better part of the past 3 years, with my autoimmune disorder and kind of working through all of that. One of the things that actually helped me the best is weeding through a lot of the old feelings that I was holding in allowing myself to find my voice and find stillness and take time away from the hustle and bustle and just kind of slip out of everything. I was able to really diminish a lot of the suffering that was happening. And it's not something that I would wish on anyone. I wouldn't want anyone to ever get sick, but in truly surrendering and not getting upset on days when I would wake up and I couldn't get out of bed, on days when, my hands and arms were too weak to even grab or lift anything, on days where I was sick and my hearing would go out or my vision would start blurring. Finding peace in those experiences and just allowing it to happen seemed as if it would make the symptoms go away faster, which I thought was just absolutely strange to me. It's like accepting, okay, this is my time to rest, was the best thing that I could do. I'm feeling these wheels turning again, and it's hard for me to still make sense of all of these wheels turning. This is a lot, and I feel like I'm going to need a meditation session and some time to really kind of work through this and practice. And pick this apart. I always recommend the sutras of Patanjali, the Yoga Sutras, and I feel like this first segment of Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, absolutely does mirror those first few sutras. The yoga or union is, to yoke, to bring together the body, mind, and soul, as well as the yogas, chitta, vrittis, nirodha, which is the yoga is removing the chittas, vrittis, the monkey mind, allowing those waves to kind of calm themselves, even though they still exist. I feel like I'm just rambling and this absolutely isn't making sense. My brain, it pieces things together here in a very strange way before I can come to an understanding. But in any case, Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, Shunryū Suzuki. I'll be reading more tomorrow night. We'll be going into the segment entitled Mind Weeds. You should rather be grateful for the weeds you have in your mind, because eventually they will enrich your practice. The marrow of Zen, and we'll take about 20 to 30 pages tomorrow. Maybe I won't ramble as much as at the beginning. But thank you so much for joining me tonight. I'll see you tomorrow night for another bedtime story. And if you want to read along, I thoroughly recommend getting a copy of Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, because reading the passages a couple times really brings up more and helps with understanding. I've read this book so many times, and still, it's like when I read it, boom, my brain is just kind of going sideways. So in any case, thanks so much for joining tonight, and I will see you tomorrow for more Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. See you later.